very active Sikh community, and they contribute disproportionate to the numbers in terms of their professional development and contributions, their small business entrepreneurs, their love of education. And so I'm very proud to represent them in our nation's capital and share with them concerns about a lack of understanding of their faith, and to work with educators in Colorado to include instruction about the Sikh faith in our textbooks, and certainly to share with them, stand shoulder to shoulder with them, their right to practice their faith, your faith, without fear of intimidation, without fear of violence. And I think that the Sikh community in America is probably one of the most targeted communities when it comes to hate crimes. And so I think to be with them, I go to the temple, I participate in their activities, and now I'm a member of the SIKH CAUCUS, so I'm very proud. In fact, they gave me a turban, and I wore it in the last meeting. They gave me a sword, too, very proud. I want to say when I was a young person a long time ago, tell you how long it is ago that I went to India and studied there was when the city of Chennai was the city of Madras. Okay, a long time ago in the 1970s, but it was an extraordinary experience, and I gained an appreciation for all the beauty that is India. And so I've not been to the Punjab region. I need to do that. But my heart is with you, and I'm so proud again to be a member of the Sikh Caucus and to represent part of the Sikh community in the United States House of Representatives. Thank you.
So we always bring a box of Seeds candies. Now, Congressman knows about Seeds candies, and of course, beyond the Colorado and a little bit beyond, nobody knows about Seeds is not here.
Right.
So we're honored to have that. But also one more thing, Congressman, we are also celebrating, as in the program, our chief special guest is here also, Dr. S. Singh Bride. I will not take too much time right now to talk about him, but we will give you the book about his organization, his charitable organization, on that. But we would be honored if you also present to him, because our chair was here earlier before he got here, so he missed that opportunity. If you'd be kind enough to present that special gift to him. And if I can read the proclamation from congressional accommodation presented to present this commendation to Dr. S.P. Singh Brai in recognition of his long and devoted service to the world, underserved, underprivileged. Dr. Brai's career began as an engine mechanic in 1975 in the burgeoning into lifetime of a public service. Dr. Brai has spent his life on the noble causes of providing access to health care, services to the needy, constructing schools for special needs children, and providing financial aid to hundreds of families to help repair their homes and communities. So on behalf of the American Sikh Congressional Caucus, Congressman Kaufman, member of the American Sikh Congressional Caucus, please accept our sincere thanks and gratitude for his contribution to society. Our co-chairs, Congressman John Garamendi, and also Congressman Patrick Meehan, who was here earlier. So if we would be honored if the Congressman present that to Dr. Brai on behalf of the Sikh Caucus. I'd like to, I know that nothing ever works on schedule, so we would like to start our program once again. Again, I will make...
ਸਾਡੀਆਂ ਅਰਦਾਸਾਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਹਿਰਦੇ ਦੇ ਉਹ ਭਾਵ ਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰਗਟ ਕਰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਕਿ where we stand, anything and everything we achieve in this world, it has to have the hidden hand of Jesus. ਉਸ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਦੀ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਸਾਡੇ ਤੇ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ 'ਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੋਈ ਰੈਵੋਲੂਸ਼ਨ ਲਿਆ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਤੇ ਆਓ ਪਿਆਰ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਰੇ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਛੋਟਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਹੈ, ਦੋ ਲਾਈਨਾਂ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਦੇ ਚਰਨਾਂ 'ਚ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਆਪਾਂ ਅੱਗੇ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਤੂੰ ਸਾਂਝਾ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਬਾਪ ਹਮਾਰਾ, नौ ਨਿਦ ਤੇਰਾ ਖੁੱਟ ਭੰਡਾਰਾ ਜਿਸ ਤੂੰ ਦੇ ਸੋ ਤ੍ਰਿਪਤ ਅਘਾਵੈ ਸੋਈ ਭਗਤ ਤੁਮਹਾਰਾ ਜੀਓ ਸਭ ਕੋ ਆਸੈ ਤੇਰੀ ਬੈਠਾ ਸਭ ਕੋ ਆਸੈ ਤੇਰੀ ਬੈਠਾ ਕਟ ਕਟ ਅੰਤਰ ਤੂੰ ਹੈ ਉਠਾ ਸਭੇ ਸਾਂਝੀਵਾਲ ਸਦਾਇਨ ਤੂੰ ਕਿਸੈ ਨਾ ਦਿਸੈ ਬਾਹਰਾ ਜੀਓ ਤੂੰ ਸਾਂਝਾ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਬਾਪ ਹਮਾਰਾ ਨੌ ਨਿਦ ਤੇਰਾ ਅਕੁੱਟ ਭੰਡਾਰਾ ਸਾਰੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਖੜੇ ਹੋ ਜਾਈਏ ਸਰਬੱਤ ਸੰਗਤ ਬੋਲਣਾ ਜੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ 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 हे निमाणे दे मान निताणे दे तान न्योटियां दी ओट तन तन सच्चे पिता वाहिगुरू Oh dear God, the American Sikh Caucus Committee has organized an annual reception to thank you and the elected officials of US Congress and the members of Sikh Caucus for their tireless service to American people and the Sikh community. Today, we seek your blessings and guidance for the future. Dear God, please bless the political leadership and the religious leadership of this country and around the globe to build more understanding, respectful, loving, and peaceful societies. Today, on June 7th, the Sikh community around the world also remembering and praying for those who gave their lives to protect the honor and sanctity of Shri Harmandir Sahib, Shri Akal Takht Sahib, and many other gurdwaras and Sikh institutions. ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਸਰਬੱਤ ਦੇ ਸਿਰ ਤੇ ਮਿਹਰ ਪੈ ਹੱਥ ਰੱਖਣਾ ਆਪਣੇ ਕਾਰਜਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਿਮਰਤਾ ਸਹਿਤ ਪ੍ਰੇਮ ਸਹਿਤ ਲਾਈ ਰੱਖਣਾ ਸਰਬੱਤ ਦੇ ਕਾਰਜ ਰਾਸ ਕਰਨੇ ਸਹੀ ਪਿਆਰੇ ਮੇਲ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਤੇਰਾ ਨਾਮ ਚਿਤ ਆਵੈ ਨਾਨਕ ਨਾਮ ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਕਲਾ ਤੇਰੇ ਬਾਣੀ ਸਰਬੱਤ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ बोले सो निहाल सत श्री अकाल
I wanted to give you a little speech to us. Thank you.
The Sikh Student Association at George Mason University. Throughout our history, you'll see countless examples of seva, or selfless service, practiced by our gurus and those of our faith. They have this drive, this pure willingness and desire to help others and make a difference in their lives. They saw God in everyone and they recognized the human race as one. Flash forward to present day and you'll see Sikhs echoing their actions. CAUCUS, a UK-based humanitarian organization founded by Ravi Singh, works specifically in disaster and war-torn areas around the world. From working from front lines of refugee crisis in Europe to providing clean water and support victims of the Haiti earthquake, CAUCUS Aid conducted projects in over 20 countries in 1999. United Sikhs, another Sikh humanitarian organization, affiliated themselves with the United Nations, and they aim to empower those in need. From providing relief efforts in Australia after a powerful cyclone, to launching a campaign called Feed the Hungry, where they worked with gurdwaras to feed the needy communities all over the world. The extraordinary work done by these Sikhs around the world inspires our organization at Mason to follow in their footsteps. We organized a fundraiser to raise awareness about the water crisis in Punjab, India, and also held a clothing drive for local shelters in DC. Our future projects include holding more food and clothing drives and helping out at places of worship. We also want to educate our youth about issues present in our community. However, there is still a widespread need for humanitarian support in so many different areas around the world. For example, Water.org reported that 663 million people are still living without access to safe water. 2.4 billion people live without access to improved sanitation. With the climate changing, these numbers are only growing. We cannot see what the future lies for our humanity, but we can act on it. We must treat it as beauty to society, and this importance is also highlighted in Gurbani as Seva karat hoye nekami tisko hot barapit swam. Seva Tiger Chika Khalsa, like.
Yadvinder Singh, who is also a member of our regional directors, he's past president of the American Gurdwara Prabandhak Committee, which is a consortium of Gurdwaras throughout the country and one of the largest organizations in the United States, and of course our board member. So we would be honored to have him say a few words as he's coming up and for his contribution, making sure the members of Congress from every region are represented on them. Just a few days ago, I got a call, Congressman Josh Gothmeier, who is newly elected Congressman from New Jersey region, and so it is, like I mentioned before, it is you're the one who allows members to come join. I can go and ask them whatever I want to they want, because I'm not the one they represent. Your members represent you, so when you ask them, they come and join, just as Congressman Kaufman was here earlier. Just this weekend, he spoke to the community, and here he is, a member of the caucus. So, Yadvinder Singh from New Jersey.
As we're celebrating our 4th year into SIKH CAUCUS, it's a great achievement in itself for the community that we are occupying our space here, which belongs to us as a community. And we're putting our agendas here, issues which are related to our community, which are important to our community, that we could be a voice in the Capitol Hill for the years to come. As we're celebrating this event, we're also commemorating the first week of June, which historically had very painful memories in our community's history. In the recent history, in 1984, when Indian state attacks Darbar Sahib and 37 other gurdwaras or places of worship and massacred hundreds of thousands of people, which are still not accounted fully. And there's no sort of clarification or justification for all those killings up until today. There hasn't been any investigation or sort of investigation from the international community or human rights organization being involved into that thing anymore. So these are the things that we should remember as well, and which strengthens us and our community to speak for ourselves, for our rights, especially in this Western world, specifically in the United States. That we want to make sure that things that happened 33 years ago didn't happen to us anymore or to any other community. The best prevention is to be aware of what's coming. And with the current situation around us, back home and over here, the way the hate crimes are up, the minorities are more targeted, Sikhs are more targeted, I think we need to speak up. We need to bring these voices out. And we should equip ourselves for the future that we can live as a free community in a free country. There are a lot of things to be done in the future, but I think Harpreet, Dr. Saab, and their whole team is doing a great job. We're all trying our best to reach out to our representatives in our respective communities and bring our issues forward, which are important to the Sikhs and to the Americans in general. We recently had a dinner with our congressman where we discussed in details about what is important as Americans, specifically. Mr. Trump's has pulled out of the Paris Agreement. So we need to involve into the general issues that we're facing every day. So I think keep involved, everybody who came from all over, and be part of this forum that we have created for our community and for the future of our community. And I wish everybody good luck. SIKH CAUCUS.
So our next speaker is Arjun Singh, who is the president of the SIKH Student Association from the University of Virginia. So Arjun Singh, are you in the audience?
Uday Singh, exactly.
Uday Singh is speaking on his behalf. See, I knew there was a surprise. Right? So Uday Singh.
Got you. SIKH CAUCUS. My name is Uday. I'm from the University of Virginia, representing the SIKH Student Association there. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about the humanitarian work that SIKHs are doing nationally and locally and at the University of Virginia specifically. So throughout our history in the United States, we know SIKHs have faced a lot of adversity. For example, following the 9/11 terrorist attacks, SIKHs were the victims of many misguided hate crimes. And more recently, in 2012, a Gurdwara in Oak Creek, Wisconsin was attacked. These events sent ripples through our community and spurred feelings of fear and maybe even anger. But the effects of adversity don't determine who we are as a people. It's our response to these adversities that shows our true spirit. And violence never leads to acceptance, and as SIKHs we are taught to fight ignorance and hatred with love and seva. This resilient spirit has turned these tragic events into opportunities to spread knowledge about Sikhi and our culture. And one of the best avenues for spreading this message comes through these humanitarian efforts across the country. For example, in Los Angeles, the Khalsa Food Pantry and the Khalsa Peace Corps provide daily meals and assistance to low-income families. And earlier this year, Gurdwaras in the Sacramento area welcomed the Oroville Dam evacuees and provided shelter and food for an extended period of time. Local efforts have included fundraisers for homeless shelters, clothing drives, and I know the people from George Mason just held a blood drive at my local Gurdwara. At the University of Virginia, what we're trying to do is work with the Habitat for Humanity. We've already built a few houses this year, and we're hoping to come in on more builds in the coming year. And there are other organizations as well, such as SALDEF, which work in the legislative front to defend for the rights of Sikh Americans and to fight for greater multicultural training for public servants. And these programs help to bring young Sikhs into the folds and show them how to lead into the America of the future. And through these efforts, both the local events and the large international programs that Sufri highlighted, we can see that Sikhs are making a difference in the world and showcasing the ideal of seva. And regardless of their race, nationality, or ethnicity, everyone around the world knows that Sikhs will be prepared to help those in need. Thank you. SIKH CAUCUS.
So I would like to ask, before they speak, Simran Singh, who's captain of the U.S. Army in the Combat Engineering and Rangers, and served in the U.S. Army in Afghanistan and have received the Bronze Star of Valor. Now, Simran Singh comes from Seattle region, and so we are honored. He is one of the only 5 members who today serve in the armed forces in the Sikh group as we are. So what an honor to have our captain, Sukhvinder Singh, to say a few words about the history, and then, of course, as I mentioned, the 2 members of Congress who have led the way for us to serve, and Congressman McCartney, who serves in the Veterans Affairs, is also one of the persons who should hear the story of Simran Singh. Captain.
It's actually pretty exhilarating to see so many folks from various groups here kind of gathered together today for a common mission, right? Common vision for the Sikh Month. And I think back when in 2006, that's when I graduated from high school. I'm not sure if an organization like this existed. I don't think we did, and I don't think we were where we are today in terms of our capacity, our capability to really more or less secure our rights. So that's why back in 2006, when I was a high school kid, and I got accepted into West Point, one of the recruiters, again, no fault to him, he said, you got a beard and turban that's kind of you're just growing out your beard to be a rebel, right? You're going to take that off, right? And I was blindsided, right? a Sikh can't serve in the army. That just doesn't make sense. Sikhs and soldiers go hand in hand. And so really, from that 2006 to today, we've come a long way. And it's because of these kind of gatherings, because of organizations and people putting their endless time into this. And I'm very grateful for that. So, again, in 2006, I had to enter West Point by unfortunately cut my hair. But then in 2015, I learned that there's a way to go forward, and I connected with some folks from SIKH Coalition and some other teams. And today, we have over 46, I know you said there's 5 serving, but then the religious accommodations that have been granted to over 46 that have been granted, and they can serve. So that's remarkable. Never in my wildest dreams would I have thought that, a policy can change so quickly, but the policy change happened in this year, January. So within about 5-6 months, that many Sikhs have signed up to serve. And just goes to show, when given the opportunity, Sikhs will serve, because this is our homeland. So we are extremely grateful for that. And the last thing I want to say is, the last piece of cooperation, right? So make sure we are, all the groups, we're leveraging all our assets and putting everything together to march towards a common mission and a common goal. The military campaign, it wasn't just one group, one person. It was multiple groups. It was Beckett Fund, a lot of different organizations coming together and marching for a common purpose. And hopefully we can do the same thing for the Air Force, for the Navy, for the Marine Corps, because we're not there yet, and we will be, though. But again, march towards the common purpose, common mission. Thank you.
When we formed this caucus, and there was no other better person to have as our chair than our Congressman Judy Chu. But that issue didn't start when she became a congressperson, but way beyond even when she was in California Assembly. I remember that way back when she held meetings throughout California on issues of hate crimes. And I remember being a panelist in San Jose when you held that meetings there. And we just had a briefing today on hate crime, in a way, on a larger platform in the whole world in terms of bigotry, perhaps, and so forth. So it is an honor to have Congresswoman Judy Chu as our member right from the beginning, not just here in the state capitol, but in the state of Caucus. So we would love to have our chair, Judy Chu, Congresswoman from California.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Harpreet. It is so great to be with the Congressional SIKH Caucus. Yes, it was just a few years ago when you, Harpreet, came to me and said, how can we have a SIKH Caucus? And so, yes, we founded this caucus, and since then, there has been the annual event here, the annual reception. There's been Lungar on the Hill, and it's so wonderful to see all the staffers and the congressional members sharing a meal of roti and lentil soup. And also we have taken several initiatives with regard to Sikh Americans. And what an honor it is to be here with Captain Singh. You are a pioneer. You've made history. And just last month, the International Basketball Federation changed their policy to allow Sikhs to play with their heads covered. That is something that I and many of my congressional colleagues had called on them to do in a letter that was led by Congressmember Joe Crowley, and I'm thrilled to see this progress. But we are facing many challenges, especially since we have a president whose policies are creating a culture of fear and suspicion. The Muslim travel ban, which Trump this week admitted is a ban, has increased aggressive actions against those, not just Muslims, but many people thought to be different. And already there has been a decline in international students wanting to study here and of tourism here as people are afraid to travel to and from the U.S. And the xenophobic and hateful words of the president has resulted in endangering the lives of many minorities, Sikhs included. It was only this spring in the state of Washington that Sikh American Deep Rai was simply fixing his car in his driveway when a 6-foot white man simply came up to him and shot him. Similarly, 2 Indian engineers were in Kansas simply having a conversation when a man came and shot them, killing one. In both cases, the assailants told the victim to go back to your country. But the problem is, this is our country. This is our country. Because of these acts of violence and because of the very aggressive actions by CBP and ICE agents, we of KCAC, our Congressional Asian Pacific Caucus, asked for a meeting with the Secretary of Homeland Security, John Kelly, to meet with us, and we raised these issues. We raised these issues of the Muslim travel ban, the hate crimes, as well as these aggressive actions by the border agents. And so the meeting took place in April. I impressed upon him the urgency of the situation and at least got a commitment with him to meet with people in the community in places like Los Angeles and elsewhere around the nation. So we are staying engaged and helping to promote our values that will ensure that this country remains the country of diversity and tolerance. So I look forward to working with you on these issues and in the months to come so that we can make sure that we preserve our religious freedom in this country. So thank you all so very much.
Who is from the Stockton area. And when all you have to say is Stockton, and we know Stockton is the oldest Sikh temple, and the immigration that came to this country literally started in the Valley of California. So, Congressman, like I mentioned, as Captain was talking about serving in armed forces, and you heard some of the sad stories about the veterans that have not been given the services after they retire or leave services. And he has taken the forefront of that to making sure that all those who serve are provided the service. My own daughter had the opportunity to serve at one of the Veterans Center in Martinez, and that is very important to all of our members. So it is an honor to have Congressman McNerney, but that's not the only issues, because I know Congressman Costa is in the House. If you go up and down California, you see them where water flows, and that is an important issue for California. Water is an issue for California, but it's been the issue of all of this country. So we're honored to have Congressman McNerney, who represents the oldest and the first generation of Sikhs that came to our country, and armed services, everything else that he's done for us, and also transportation. And the Congressman knows not only do we get ships coming into Stockton, but all the transportation by trucks and so forth comes through his congressional district. And he's always listening to their concerns. And I'm not sure for the fact, Congressman, but almost 50% of the trucking industry is now owned by Sikhs in California. So he's listened to our concerns way back when different regulations come through. So thank you for always being a voice for us as well. Congressman Jerry McNerney.
Good evening. It's an honor to be here. As Harpreet mentioned, I have the oldest Sikh Gurdwara in the country in Stockton. More than 100 years now, about 105 years. They had a tremendous 100-year anniversary with a lot of history, some of the hardships and some of the successes. And the successes are pretty impressive. The community is very successful in terms of the community outreach, in terms of the achievements, the economic achievements. It's a community that brings stability to our community. So I feel honored to have a significant community, not only the one temple in Stockton, but temples all around my district, in Lodi and Tracy and Manteca. So you're all represented, and I appreciate that. I'm honored also to be part of the push that allowed some of the armed forces to accept turbans and beards, and I think that's a tremendous achievement. It shows progress, which is important. It's important for you all to be committed to the political process to make sure that we continue these sorts of achievements. And I just want to say a little bit about the turban and the beard. I don't have a turban or a beard, but I can tell you, when I see someone with a turban and a beard, I have an impression of someone that has a commitment to values, someone that has an honor, self-honor, self-respect. And I can tell you, I'd rather see someone with a turban than someone else that would be more threatening. So I feel more comfortable when I see a turban that gives me a sense of security. So I think you take that security and that comfort with you and make it a part of our country. And I think that's deeply appreciated by many people that know about what you all represent and what you stand for. So thank you for your commitment to our country. It's important. I know that you've become Americans and you're proud of that fact. And you're committed to this country. And together, with the diversity that you bring and others, the acceptance of each other, we're going to continue to be a great country. So thank you for participating.
To have across Sikh as an ethnicity, as I mentioned before, this is not a religious caucus, it's an ethnicity caucus. So there were two different caucuses of the U.S. Congress that are ethnicity bound. And if it wasn't for the Jewish and Latino caucus, this caucus wouldn't have been formed. And I always say that time and time again, because when we said we want to have the American Sikh caucus, they said, well, that's a religion. They said no, but we found out later that yes, of course, there's the Jewish and Latino caucus, just as Judaism is also ethnicity, as are the Sikhs. So that is why we have this. And Congressman Costa, who also comes from a region with so many temples, too many temples, I think. And as I mentioned, it is the breadbasket of farmland. And I think Congressman will tell us that California produces many things in farming, and products is one of the largest contribution in the valley. And also, just as I mentioned, our generation goes back hundreds, so does Congressman's family as well. They came many hundreds of years ago, even sooner before the Sikh immigration, and settled in the area. And farming was also one of the important things to them, from his grandparent to his father and to himself. So it is an honor to have Congressman Costa, who actually has the pulse of the Sikhs on issues today, on many different issues that affects us throughout this country. So, and I keep saying that to, once again, thank you for your staff, thank you for all the staff that are here, who help us make sure that things happen here, and also in your district. I know I hate to point out Tade, who is just, I see he's here now. He was in Fresno fighting the good fight there for members of our Sikh community and all communities in that area for what he has done in that. So Tade, thank you, and thank you for Congressman having such great staff. So Congressman Jim Costa from the Central Valley.
I probably don't need a but welcome all of you to our nation's capital. Belongs to all of us. And I'm always very pleased when people from throughout California, throughout our country, get a chance to come here and to advocate on behalf of your focus and your causes. And I think the Sikh American Caucus is really beginning the first steps of what will be a continuing journey. Because the caucuses that have been successful here have been involved for many decades. And you're taking these first steps in the last several years are important. Because what is America? America is a land of immigrants past and immigrants present. And just as Harpreet was talking about my family, the fact is that every generation of immigrants, your families, have come, like my family, with a desire to have a better life for themselves and for their children, and to add value to this great country of ours. And you've done that. You've done that in so many ways. I mean, with the first wave of Sikh immigration from primarily Punjabi, but from all over, I know that your families, because I go to your Sikh temples. At one time, I believe, between Bakersfield and Fresno, I had 8. Today, I think I have 4 between Fresno and Merced, because I no longer represent the portions of Kern County. But I think about the first wave were primarily farmers. I've been to Punjab. I've been to the Golden Temple. I've seen the importance of all of your hard work, not only in the state of Punjab, but as your families have immigrated to this country. And of course, from the farmers at the turn of the 20th century to the establishment of business people. As you noted, I think maybe half of the trucking industry in California is now owned by Punjabis. But it's just not there. It's the business people that you see starting small businesses, involved in hotels, involved in so many different enterprises. And, of course, the healthcare community. We have a shortage of physicians in the San Joaquin Valley. For every 1,000 people, there is 0.95 physicians. Anywhere else in California, for every 1,000 people, there's 2.25 physicians. Between Bakersfield and Modesto, we have about 1,000 Indian physicians, of which I believe 80% are Sikh. It is truly amazing. Our physician shortage would even be greater if it were not for the Indian physicians, especially the best physicians, my physician, Dr. S.P. DeLong. I say that with pride because the first district director appointed to a congressional office, I believe, in the United States was my district director, who some of you may know, Gary Shahill. And it's important to be involved. That's what you're doing here today. You're getting involved. You're getting involved for all the right reasons. The reasons my parents got involved. You know, my grandparents, when they came to this country, none of them spoke English, and 3 of the 4 of them were illiterate. Does that sound familiar? When my mother and father were born in Tulare in Kings County, they did not speak English into the 1st grade. Does that sound familiar? Both on my mother's side and my father's side, they were large families. Does that sound familiar? Well, in my heart, I feel very strongly about the contributions that immigrants have made to our country, past and present. And you and your families are a part of that American story. And you make America a better place to live. You add value in every way that you establish yourselves and your families. And then you have children, and they become educated, and they become the next generation of business people, of physicians, of entrepreneurs, in so many different fields. And that's why I'm so proud of the contributions that the Punjabi community, the Sikh community, has made, not just in California, but throughout the country. And each and every one of you have a story to tell. And that story is the American story. And so my staff, my chief of staff, Juan Lopez, reflects that American story of obviously Hispanic origin, Tati reflects that story of Armenian background. Ben Golding reflects that story. He's, and of course Alexia, she's Armenian as well. My office looks like the United Nations. And I'm proud of it. We have capability to speak Spanish, Armenian, Punjabi. What other languages do we speak in our office? Farsi. And Russian.
Indeed.
And Hindi. So we reflect a lot of the diversity, great diversity that makes America an incredible place to live and the great nation that we are. So we will continue to deal with issues that are important to you as immigrant communities, those that you want to serve in our nation's military. I was very proud several years ago to appoint the first Sikh American to the United States Air Force Academy, Harry Gill's son. So you may know him. He graduated last year. He's now on my Academy Appointments Committee, and he's serving our nation in the Air Force. And so these are the kinds of things that are important about being involved. And that's why the SIKH Caucus is important. That's why the funds that you're raising, sadly, in this world of terrorism that we live in today, to educate the American public about the Sikh religion, your customs, and your tradition. Those commercials are important. I know they cost a lot of money. I know because I do television for campaigns. It's not inexpensive. By the way, many of you have supported me over the years. Thank you. But the fact is that education needs to continue. And that's why this caucus is important. That's why being able, when many Americans are lacking in information as about what and confusion about terrorist activities and somehow thinking that possibly because you have customs of the Southeast Asia and a part of the world that many Americans are just unfamiliar with, that we explain and create understanding where today there, in some instances, is misunderstanding. But we have to do it. We have to take those steps. So I want to thank you again for allowing me the opportunity to represent you in our nation's capital. I want to encourage you to be involved, but I want you to also encourage two other things, because I know the traditions, and every ethnic group, the parents that come, and you get the first generation born here, and then the second generation born here, and the families are close, and that's important, and that's good. But when I had the Indian ambassador to the United States come to Fresno, and some of you may have attended some 4 years ago, she was a very, very wonderful ambassador. And I told all my Indian Sikh friends, we had a big event, we had 400 people. And I said, a lot of times I go to these events and it's just the men. I would not be comfortable if you did not bring your families and your wives, because we have this incredible woman who is the representative of the Indian government. And it was wonderful to have that balance. And the young people who are here, your families, they're the next generation. They're the next generation of leaders. So getting them involved, as you have, I see some of them here, is critical, because they are going to be the ones that will be running for office. They'll be the ones who are involved in congressional committees. And it's my grandparents couldn't do that. My parents began that assimilation, but they gave me an opportunity. And I can guarantee you, in 1904, when my grandparents got off the train station in Hanford, California, with little more than the clothes on their back, they could never, ever believe when they came to this country that 100 years later, their grandson would be elected to the United States Congress. That
if you could just give us the opportunity, a little gift of our token to Congressman. And while you're coming up, Congressman, I remember my mom, who illiterate, came to this country, was a cook, and she took 2 different buses to get to adult education to learn English. And it's sad that we are taking away classes like that from our curriculum. That those were the classes that taught our immigrants to be able to learn English and speak English. And today, those who yearn to speak that, and those fundings are taken away. For adult education, yes, our kids will do, but we want our adults to be able to do so. So I remember that my mom taking 2 buses to be able to do that, just as you talked about your parents coming to this country. So, Congressman, thank you. And as they're coming closer, I'll stop.
You want to do the picture?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Gary Cahill, he would translate for me into trouble.
Yeah, who the chief of staff is. So he's always going to hear from me now, whereas Ben or Tele were always getting an earful from me. And as I open the door and know that they're always thinking, oh my God, here he is again. So hope you'll keep an eye out and be able to listen to what I'm thinking. Oh, another big mistake. Giving me this card. So Congressman,
You and I work.
yes, and Congressman just forwarded a picture of us, and here we were sitting at the convention, and I know we belong to the same party, and I need not to say that. And it was a wonderful time that we were sitting at the convention, and to be able to be there with many of the delegates from California, and had the largest Sikh delegates contingency to the Democratic Convention. I must say I'm proud of that. So, Congressman, thank you for giving the opportunity to our community to be in your staff, but also to talk about all our issues. Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you.
SIKH CAUCUS team will be talking, and we had a briefing today. And it was such an important thing that to happen on the Hill. And we had the Deputy General from the United Nations, Adama Dieng, come and speak. Ms. Naomi Kokler from the Holocaust Deputy Director of the Holocaust Museum come and speak on all the issues that are concerned to us nationally in this tragic incidents that are going around the country right now. So after Dr. Amriti Singh speaks, Dr. Chima will speak as well after that. Thank you.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ. Thousands of miles away from our fatherland, in this Rayburn building, 4 years ago, the founding of U.S. Congressional SIKH Caucus showed the way. That was the time when 30 million Sikh nation was feeling that on one hand in Canada we have a political voice, in UK we are marching ahead, but in the United States, in spite of the fact that in the 1950s Dalip Singh Sawant was the first congressman, 3-term congressman who was in US Congress, we have not been able to be in the political system. Has been on the city level, council level, or mayor level, but not in the U.S. Congress. But it is a proud moment for us that today, after 4 years, there are 50 plus congressmen who are part of the U.S. Congressional SIKH Caucus. And in these 4 years, the major issues, not only of this country, hate crime, bullying, or Sikhs, should have the right to serve in the U.S. military. But on different occasions, we have seen that briefings on human rights record in India, and as we know that today is June 7th, when we are here to celebrate the 4 years of this SIKH caucus, but at the same time, we shouldn't forget that 33 years ago, in the same week, in Golden Temple, as is erroneously called, but we call it Darbar Sahib, the sanctum sanctorum of the Sikhs, Indian army attacked our heart, our sanctum sanctorum with artillery, with naval divers, using Air Force, and all the brutal force, not only in Darbar Sahib, but 37 Sikh historical shrines were attacked on the night of June 3rd. Thousands were killed. And that policy of the government is continuing in these 33 years as well. As we know what is happening in India today in the name of one ideology, which was of the Nazi pattern in the 1930s. The minorities in India, they may be Sikhs, Christians, Muslims, Dalits, tribals. They all are suffering, and we can see the reports of United States Commission on International Religious Freedom, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, that what is happening there. It's true, and very famous quote of Martin Luther King is that injustice anywhere is the threat to justice everywhere. And we as Sikhs, we know that in these past 3 centuries, we have passed through the valley of death in the hands of different regimes, maybe Mughals, maybe invaders across Darai Khyber, maybe British colonials, or maybe today's rulers, those who believe in the Nazi-like ideology of Hindutva. But we as Americans, we are proud that the American value system runs parallel to what the Sikh beliefs are, what our gurus have taught us, and we are proud that 9th Guru, Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib, sacrificed his life for the right of freedom of religion, right of worship of Hindus at that time. And today, though we are suffering in that country, but we are hoping that this effort, as in UK on June 8th, elections are going to be held, and we think it is an achievement that in their annual election manifesto, Labour Party of England have put one line that if they will be elected, they will set a commission which will investigate the role of UK government at that time collaborating with India's Indira Gandhi government in the attack on Darbar Sahib and 37 Sikh historical shrines. We shouldn't shy away from talking about our rights. This is a land where freedom of expression, First Amendment, and this is a country founded by the immigrants. And how we can forget the pilgrims who came to this country, who laid the foundations of this country. Now we are here happy, our 4th, 5th generation, we are prospering, we have all the opportunities to grow, but we always in our prayers, we always keep our brothers and sisters in our fatherland who are under that kind of ideology being ruled there, that they don't have their basic freedoms. I want to congratulate friends of U.S. Congressional Sikh Caucus for organizing this reception, as well as a very good briefing, as it is for the first time that United Nations Under Secretary General, he was one of them, and he is a special advisor on prevention of genocide as well, that he talked about, Dr. Chima mentioned, and from the Holocaust Museum, the speaker mentioned that how we need to do something so that there are no genocides in future. And I'll conclude by saying that after the Second World War, what during the Second World War in the 1930s Nazis did to Jews, to Gypsies, to others, not only in Germany, throughout the Europe, and the slogan given was never again, never again. But what we are seeing in 21st century, it may be Middle East, Syria, it may be Myanmar, it may be even the so-called largest democracy, India, that the same is being repeated. And it is the moral duty of all of us that we should bring to the notice of our opinion makers, lawmakers, decision makers, what the minorities are going through, and do something about it. We are the hope of the whole human race. We are the beacon of democracy. We are the beacon of human rights. And we that American dream, but let that dream be available to all the more than 7 billion people on this planet. Again, I congratulate U.S. Congressional Sikh Caucus, friends of U.S. Congressional Sikh Caucus, for taking Sikh issues in U.S. Congress. Thank you very much. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. And again, Dr. Chima, who you may have heard many times, has come from London to talk about many issues. And recently, I was listening to BBC, and here he was talking about what just transpired in London. I'm sorry, in Manchester, talking about the interfaith community coming together to denounce all the atrocities that are being committed, just not in Manchester, but in all the other places. So Dr. Chima has been a voice for those who want to stand up against such horrible incidences that are occurring throughout the world. So again, thank you, Dr. Chima, for always being a voice for the rest of those who are perhaps not sometimes heard, but they're on the right course. Thank you, Doctor.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's always a privilege for me to come to this grand nation. And I really praise the United States for this, because it is really a land of liberty, of freedom, and I hope it stays the same. When I look at the country where I live, I think voicing for the human rights is very difficult, because unfortunately we don't have the foreign ethical policy in the United Kingdom which will support these voices. But I must compliment the congressman here, the Tom Landis Human Rights Commission, the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom, the Friends of American SIKH CAUCUS, that they have always supported the voice of human rights of the religious freedom as well. I think the United States and the Canada are two great nations which has given the right place to the community of Sikhs, the community, a race, a nation which has faced persecution for 5 centuries during their existence in the Indian subcontinent, starting from the Mughal rule, then under the British rule, and then in a nation which declared itself the world's largest democracy. But even today, its constitution doesn't classify Sikhs as Sikhs, rather submerge them in another identity. Let me also thank you, the caucus, for inviting Mr. Ahmadian, the UN Under Secretary General. I'm on the UN Advisory Board now for a few years now. And this is the first time that United Nations have put together a new Faith for Rights declaration, which I'm very proudly to be the co-author of, which we did about 2 months ago in Beirut, where we had the faith leaders across the world. And interesting enough, when we were formalizing the Faith for Rights Declaration, which would be shared with the member states very soon, there were various core texts from the various Abrahamic faiths cited in the declaration. But because I said I'm the co-author of this document, I refuse to give it a go-ahead till UN includes the hymns from Shri Guru Granth Sahib. So this is the first time that in any of the UN declarations, which is now in my hand and will very soon be available with all the member states as well as on the UN website, that there are 3 hymns taken from Shri Guru Granth Sahib. I think today we may not find this as a significant achievement that a SIKH caucus is in existence, but when the future Sikhs and the generations would come, they would regard this as a high-level achievement. The Sikhs have 51 members now in their caucus. Few of the states, the nation states, and the state that has few of the nations with the flags and with the membership in the UN, they would have that sort of membership. And the same is this declaration. And interestingly enough, when we got this translated from Egypt, because the 3 hymns from Guru Granth Sahib have been also translated in French as well as Arabic language. And I think this is the first text of Guru Granth Sahib which has been translated into Arabic. So the people in the oldest and largest, established in 12th century in Egypt, the Muslim university, Al-Azhar, which is the oldest, largest seat of learning for Muslims. When we sent the text to them to get it translated, they found a lot of similarity of this faith with the Universal Brotherhood and with Islam. And they said, we never knew that our faiths are so close. But there is a big message for the Sikhs in that we need to make this message of universal brotherhood make it available to the rest of the world, because it's a universal message and it should go to the universe. It shouldn't just stay within the Sikh community. The second thing you might be aware of that earlier this year in March, United States Commission on International Religious Freedom last year contracted me to do a report on the constitutional and legal challenges faced by the minorities in India, which was published this year in March, which has obviously created a lot of chaos in India, because the Foreign Office of India has rejected this. And so far we haven't received any narrative from the Indian government, neither the USERF or the people responsible here, that what's wrong with the report. They have not been able to rebut the report. However, they have been consistently attacking me as a person. I receive all sorts of threats, including of life, but I really don't consider them any worth. Because, ladies and gentlemen, talking about the human rights, talking about the faith rights, talking about people, talking about the minority rights is not an easy job. Many of you may think it's an easy job that we come, we write these reports, and we raise these voices on the UN platform. It's not an easy job. You have to wake up whole night, you have to think what you're going to say, and then once you deliver it, once you have written it, the people who are consistently maltreating people, persecuting them, they will make your life quite difficult. But obviously there are always people who have put themselves behind and put other people first. And that, I think, also is the message of Sikhism, the message to sacrifice for others. So we will continue to support your voice in whichever way we can. And I think if this year's Vaisakhi was such a great thing that this is the first time the United Nations Under Secretary General has released a statement on Vaisakhi. And if you haven't read it, please go and read it again. It says that the values of Sikhism are very much embedded in the UN Charter. And I think that's a marvelous achievement for the Sikhs. We live in a world which is full of conflict. We live in a world full of persecution. We live in a world where the faiths are being misrepresented. And it's very unfortunate the faith I belong to, the faith of Islam, at the moment is being misrepresented, misinterpreted by the handful of extremists who are making everyone else's life difficult. But Muslims themselves are the worst victim of those extremists. But what I would request from all of you is that it's the community which fight the terrorism, is the community which these extremists and terrorists want to divide. And that's what I said on BBC when we had Manchester bombing. The terrorists want to achieve that communities are divided. They want that the communities are singled out and they want to polarize. We need to make sure that we stand shoulder to shoulder against such ideologies which divide us, and they are enemies of humanity, and hence enemies of all of us. So I want to thank the SIKH CAUCUS again, and the co-chair and the staffers specifically, because we always get consistent support from them. And thank you to those who attended the briefing today. And I want to thank the congressman who stood by the cause of religious freedom and liberty and the human rights. Because we do know that there was a very huge lobbying within the Congress to get this evening's congressional briefing cancelled. People have been lobbying for this for a week or so, but I salute the Congress and everyone else that they maintained the spirit of the American nation by maintaining their stand with liberty, with freedom, and people's religious freedom. And thank you all.
So again, I don't know where to start with Dr. Chima's accomplishments, not for all things, but also for us here. As the Dr. Saab said, that the United Nations for the first time celebrated and acknowledged Vaisakhi in the United States. And of course, we had a beautiful gathering here as well for Vaisakhi at the Capitol, Resolution 189, put forward from Congressman Garamendi, Congressman Meehan's office. But this year you may have seen a lot of states have come forward in stating that this state and that state has now acknowledge Vaisakhi throughout many different states. So it's rightfully becoming a day for us to celebrate. So not far from now, we will be celebrating it all throughout the United States, in every state, every city, as Vaisakhi is the birth of the Sikh nation, as it's said from Guru Gobind Singh in Resolution 189 about the birth of the Sikh nation in the resolution itself. So Dr. Chima, you have always been most helpful to this caucus in informing members of Congress. And sometimes that's the fundamental right of this country is to be able to inform. And sometimes we ourselves may wish that something else would happen, but you have to understand the Constitution. And that's where we stand. That's the beauty of this nation. So thank you, Dr. Chima. And as some of you guys may have come later, we did recognize the chief guest, Dr. S.P. Singh O'Brien. We will be giving these booklets out on his accomplishment of works throughout Punjab and other states as well of his accomplishment. Which is why the members of the Sikh Congressional Caucus have honored him today for his work throughout the country, throughout the nations, and in helping those who don't have access to health care. He started providing kidney dialysis machines. One of the things which in India would cost like 6,000 rupees or more, Dr. Saab, right? Yeah. For me to get one treatment for kidney dialysis. Currently, there were hardly any machines, hardly in many places, and people have to travel far away to be able to afford that. 6,000 rupees is a lot of money for somebody who doesn't have much.
One time.
And that's just one treatment. And most people, as you know, probably need 2 in a week. Sometimes 3, sometimes 4. So I'll make the story short, which is not serving the purpose here. He has brought down where in 30 kilometers that there's a kidney machine available for people all over the state of Punjab and now moving into other states. So, and the cost is not 6,000 but barely 600. Not only that, for those who travel, there's a place to stay because it takes a while. Food is given, shelter is given, and his goal is to make it into 20 kilometers distance. So if I were to go 50 miles away to see my cousin, I couldn't have stayed overnight because I had to return. He's allowed it so that you can also go to the local kidney places to have the treatment and be able to stay. Just to interrupt myself, for those who haven't gotten food, please get some because we also have to leave on time, so don't be shy about it. So, not only that, providing water. Water, as you know, is sadly in Punjab very contaminated, and many of the school children, many of the poor people drink water that would be qualified dangerous to your health. He's providing what is called AERO, which I'm sure is an acronym for, but basically it cleans the water system so it's drinkable water all through our schools and cities. He's providing children who are disabled monies for them and their parents, because as you know, that a child with disability, parents have a necessity to provide that services 24/7. The list goes on and on what he does. His charitable trust, before I go, most of us didn't know about Dr. O'Brien, but he came to attention about 2012. Please. In 2012, in Dubai, correct me, there was incidents among some workers from India and Pakistan, and one of the gentlemen was killed. The government took and prosecuted 17 individuals for the crime, and they were to be hanged, or I think they hanged them there, unless you paid what is called blood money, so that you would pay retribution to the individual's family. And Dr. O'Brien paid $88,000.
No. Altogether, 88 released.
Oh, the number of the money that you pay.
Money, different.
In different amount of money, which is
First time $2 million.
about $2 million.
First time for 17.
For 17 people, about $2 million that he paid to the family to release those 17 people that were charged for the murder of one individual. He has continued to help other people who are who are in those positions. The world knew about it, that here's a person who had nothing to do with these families, but he gave $2 million of his own money to save the lives of those 17 individual people. So he has done many other things. So the charitable trust, and by the way, if I were to say, here's $100 from me to you, no, he doesn't take money. The trust doesn't have a receipt book to take money from you. His work, his foundation, almost 90% of it was his money that comes in goes to the charitable trust. Doesn't have a receipt book, so you can't even give him money. Now, if you want to, as like my school, I want to provide a water treatment plant in my school, he said, look, I'll help you. If you want to put one, you don't have enough money, we'll help you put the rest. Their medical camps happen throughout the country. You might be able to provide 20 people to come to a medical camp. He said, well, why don't we just partnership and I'll make sure there's accessible for 100 people to come and be able to have access. Not just people who would say, oh, yeah, you look like cataracts are coming up and go ahead and get it treated. No, they'll treat the treatment, not just diagnose and you tell goodbye and get it done. So throughout the country, he's provided so many things, which is why we, on behalf of the American Sikh Caucus Committee, in conjunction with the American Sikh Congressional Caucus, we're honored to have him be our special guest. And of course, many of you were here earlier, the presentation on behalf of the caucus. I know he doesn't talk much, so I really indulge you to come and say a few words. Dr. S.P. Singh O'Brien, the charitable Sarbatta Pala, in our prayers, at the end we always say Sarbatta Pala, not meaning that there should be goodwill for everybody, not Sikhs, for everyone. And that is his charitable trust, that it should be health and wealth for everyone. So Dr. S.P. Singh O'Brien, what an honor to have you, and thank you for all your services, and to be our guest for this event. Thank you, sir.
American Sikh Caucus Committee. सब तो पहला तो मैं डॉक्टर हरप्रीत सिंह और कांग्रेस के कमेटी का धन्यवाद करना चाहूँगा कि आज ऑनर किया गया। यह हफ्ता जिसमें दसाया गया कि गुरुद्वारे में नुकसान पहुँचाया गया, दिल्ली में इन्ना कुछ कतलेआम हुए, जिथे साडा ट्रस्ट MR बच्चे, डेफ एंड डम, ब्लाइंड बच्चे, हैंडीकैप, इन्हां दे स्कूल हॉस्पिटल चला रहे हैं। बहुत सारे कई स्कीमां ने जिहड़ियां कि मैडिकल दे हो गई, एजुकेशन दे हो गई। नाल दी नाल मैं अज दे मौके ते गल करनी चाहांगा कि स्पैशल जिहड़ा साडा ट्रस्ट काम कर रहा है, ਲੱਖਾਂ ਲੋਕ ਅਫੈਕਟ ਹੋਏ ਸੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਦਰਬਾਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਤੇ ਹਮਲਾ ਹੋਇਆ ਸੀ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਬਾਂਹ ਕਿਸੇ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਨੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਫੜੀ। ਦਿੱਲੀ 'ਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੰਗੇ ਹੋਏ, ਉਹ ਲੇਡੀਜ਼ ਅੱਗੋਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਰੁਲਦੇ ਪਏ ਨੇ। ਸਾਡੇ ਟਰਸਟ ਨੇ ਇੱਕ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਇੰਨੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ, ਇੱਕ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਮੁਹਿੰਮ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉਸ ਟਾਈਮ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਸੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਅੱਗੋਂ ਸ਼ਾਦੀਆਂ ਕਰਾਈਆਂ ਗਈਆਂ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਸਕੂਲ ਚੱਲਦੇ ਨੇ, ਇਸ ਲਈ ਉਹ ਟਰਸਟ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਹੈਲਪ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ, ਚਾਹੇ ਉਹ ਦਰਬਾਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੇ ਹਮਲੇ ਕਰਨ ਸੀ ਜਾਂ ਚਾਹੇ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਿਆਂ ਬਾਕੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਸੀ ਜਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਦਿੱਲੀ ਦੇ ਸੀ। ਅੱਜ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਵਿਡੋ ਸੀ ਜਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਅੱਗੇ ਦੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਵੀ ਹੈ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵਿਡੋ ਪੈਨਸ਼ਨ ਸਕੀਮ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ ਸੀ ਟਰਸਟ ਵੱਲੋਂ, ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕਿ ਹੁਣ ਤੱਕ ਜਾਰੀ ਹੈ। ਸੋ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਕਾਫੀ ਸਕੀਮਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਅੱਜ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ। ਇਸੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਅਗਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਪੰਜਾਬੀਆਂ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀਏ, ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀਏ, ਅੱਜ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ ਸ਼੍ਰੀਨਗਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਕਿ ਵਾਕਈ ਹੀ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਭਾਰੀ ਟਾਈਮ ਚੱਲ ਰਿਹਾ ਸੀ। ਸਾਡੀ ਇੱਕ ਮੁਹਿੰਮ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਹਿਸਤਾ ਆਹਿਸਤਾ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਿੰਘਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਉੱਥੋਂ ਕੱਢਿਆ ਜਾਵੇ। ਪਿੱਛੇ ਜਿਸਲੇ ਹੜ੍ਹ ਆਏ ਉੱਥੇ ਇੰਨੇ, ਤਕਰੀਬਨ ਅੱਜ ਦੀ ਡੇਟ 'ਚ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਿ ਸਕਦਾ ਕਿ 315 ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀਆਂ ਫੈਮਲੀਆਂ ਹਨ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਕਿ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਘਰੋਂ ਬੇਕਾਰ ਹੋ ਗਈਆਂ ਸੀ। ਟੈਂਪਰੇਰੀ ਸ਼ੈਲਟਰ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਗਈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ, ਔਰ ਹੁਣ ਸਾਡੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਹੈ, ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਆਲਰੇਡੀ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਵੀ ਕਰ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹਾਂ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਕਾਨ ਬਣਾ ਕੇ ਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ, ਲੇਕਿਨ ਉਹ ਪੱਕਾ ਹੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ। ਐਂਡ 'ਚ ਇਹੀ ਕਰਨਾ ਪੈਣਾ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਫੈਮਲੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਕੱਢਿਆ ਜਾਵੇ, ਉੱਥੋਂ ਕੱਢ ਕੇ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਪਾਸੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸੈਟਲ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਵੇ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹੁਣ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਪੜ੍ਹਾ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ, ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਦੇਹਰਾਦੂਨ ਆ ਗਏ ਉੱਥੇ ਪੜ੍ਹਾ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਫੀਸਿਸ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਉਹ ਟਰਸਟ ਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ। ਸੋ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਟਰਸਟ ਕਾਫੀ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ। ਸੋ ਅੱਜ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਬੜੀ ਖੁਸ਼ੀ ਹੋਈ, ਮੈਂ ਕੱਲ ਇੱਥੇ ਕਾਲੋ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਯੰਗ ਜਨਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੇਖੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਬਹੁਤ ਕੁਝ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ। ਬੜੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਖੁਸ਼ੀ ਹੋਈ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਦੇਖ ਕੇ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਸੋਚ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ, ਜੋ ਅਸੀਂ ਹੁਣ ਤੱਕ ਜੋ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ, ਅਸੀਂ ਕਰਨਾ ਸੋਚ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ, ਉਹ ਇਸ ਉਮਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅੱਜ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਖਿਆਲਾਤ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ। ਉਹ ਬੇਟੀ ਵੀ ਬੋਲ ਕੇ ਗਈ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸੁਣਿਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ, ਲੇਕਿਨ ਮੇਰੀ ਵੀ ਇੱਕ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਹੈ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕੀ ਕੁਝ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਇਸੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਕੈਲੀਫੋਰਨੀਆ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ, ਯੰਗ ਜਨਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਨਾਲ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ, ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਸੋਚ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਕਦੇ ਇਹ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇਹ ਆਈਡੀਆ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਉਹ ਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਸੋ ਅੱਜ ਜੋ ਦੇਖਿਆ, ਜੋ ਸਾਡਾ ਇੱਥੇ ਅਮਰੀਕਨ ਸਿੱਖ ਕਾਕਸ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਚੱਲ ਰਿਹਾ, ਆਪਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਕਈ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਕਿ ਆਪਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਿਲ ਜੁਲ ਕੇ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਸੋਲਵ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਜਾਣ। ਸੋ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰ ਫਿਰ ਮੈਂ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਧੰਨਵਾਦੀ ਹਾਂ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ।
Just a copy of some of the work. There's some up here. Please do take some with you. As Dr. Saab has talked about the next generation, so I want to close pretty much at the end. Jasjeet Kaur from George Mason. I don't think I forgot about you, Jasjeet Kaur. She will be speaking, and Dr. Saab will be having a meeting with many of the youth afterwards. So Jasjeet Kaur from George Mason.
Sorry? Go ahead.
Sorry, you're speaking. That's good.
Vaiguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaiguru Ji Ki Fateh. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming to today's event in support of the Congressional SIKH Caucus. Our speakers today have shared the efforts Sikhs have made on the humanitarian front to not only help our community, but the community at large, no matter what race, religion, or creed. I want to touch base with the Sikh youth in this room today to remind us that we can do even more for our community. These successful organizations such as Khalsa Aid and Sikhs for Justice work on an international basis. I believe more local efforts should be made to move forward as a community. We are the future for the Sikh Panth. It is our responsibility to step up and play a more prominent role in the efforts to make this world a better place for us, Sikhs who are a minority, and for the future generations to come. It is our turn to take these organizations and take a part of these organizations and play a role in politics to the future to further the humanitarian efforts of Sikhs. And a stronger focus needs to be put on politics because there's a need for the young Sikh men and women to represent the Sikh diaspora. An example of Sikhs doing small things to help their local community is when a Sikh from Manchester provided free rides to those who were in need after the recent attack. And when a group of kids from George Mason University got together and made 200 lunches as well as collected sweaters for the homeless shelters in D.C. These are just a few examples of seva that has been done on a local level. Our goal is to take inspiration from sevadars like Ravi Singh from Khalsa Aid and leave a legacy for future generations to follow and surpass. Lastly, I would like to leave with a positive thought that coming here today was our first step in becoming active and involved in what matters. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak, and I hope you all had a great evening. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.